live a life full of adventure. Living simply on our own, powered by the sea and sky, anchored down to be with friends, anchor up to say goodbye, traveling on the winds of change. We're gonna make it, you and I, enduring winds and stormy weather, to live a life full of adventure. Some days it's easy, other days it's tough, just finding our way and fixing all of our broken stuff. And we don't have many things, but we have enough to live this life together. A life full of adventure. Emily and Clark's Adventure. When we met, we knew that we did things differently, but with no regrets, both living life authentically. So we packed up this antique boat to make a life upon the sea, for the worse and for the better, to live a life full of adventure. Living simply on our own, powered by the sea and sky, anchored down to be with friends, anchor up to say goodbye, traveling on the winds of change. We're gonna make it, you and I, enduring winds and stormy weather, to live a life full of adventure. Some days it's easy, other days it's tough, just finding our way and fixing all of our broken stuff. And we don't have many things, but we have enough to live this life together. A life full of adventure. Emily and Clark's Adventure. When we met, we knew that we did things differently, but with no regrets, both living life authentically. So we packed up this antique boat to make a life upon the sea, for the worse and for the better, to live a life full of adventure. just finding our way and fixing all of our broken stuff. And we don't have many things, but we have enough to live this life together. A life full of adventure. Emily and Clark's adventure. When we met, we knew that we did things differently, but with no regrets, both living life authentically. So we packed up this antique boat to make a life upon the sea. For the worse and for the better, to live a life full of adventure. Living simply on our own, powered by the sea and sky. Anchor down to be with friends, anchor up to say goodbye. Traveling on the winds of change, we're gonna make it, you and I. Enduring winds and stormy weather, to live a life full of adventure. Some days it's easy, other days it's tough. Just finding our way and fixing all of our broken stuff. And we don't have many things, but we have enough to live this life together. A life full of adventure. Emily and Clark's adventure. When we met, we knew that we did things differently, but with no regrets, both living life authentically. So we packed up this antique boat to make a life upon the sea. For the worse and for the better, to live a life full of adventure. Living simply on our own, powered by the sea and sky. Anchor down to be with friends, anchor up to say goodbye. Traveling on the winds of change, we're gonna make it, you and I. Enduring winds and stormy weather, to live a life life together. A life full of adventure. Emily and Clark's Adventure. When we met, we knew that we did things differently, but with no regrets, both living life authentically. So we packed up this antique boat to make a life upon the sea. For the worse and for the better, to live a life full of adventure. Living simply on our own, powered by the sea and sky, anchored down to be with friends, anchor up to say goodbye, traveling on the winds of change. We're gonna make it, you and I, enduring winds and stormy weather, to live a life full of adventure. Some days it's easy, other days it's tough, just finding our way and fixing all of our broken stuff. And we don't have many things, but we have enough to live this life together. A life full of adventure. Emily and Clark's Adventure. Hi, it's Emily
And Clark.
on Sailing Vessel Temptress. Welcome to our July 2021 live stream, coming to you from Lubron in the Dominican Republic. And today we are answering your questions. So if you haven't done so already, say hello in the chat box, which I think is over that way, if you're on a PC, or down below if you're on the mobile device, and send us a question because we'll be answering your questions today. We were a little over-prepared last month, I think, and we got like a third of the way through the things we were going to talk about, and missed some questions. So I've written them down, so we'll try to get them this week, but mainly we're just here to talk to you today. So we hope all of you are doing well, and I'm going to bring up the chat, and hello already to Dave and Alan and Brian and Byron and Emily and John and Jim and Missy and everybody who's already left us some comments in the chat box. It's good to see you. I think we have about 50 people here. So yeah, I think our first question, hi Crosley, comes to us from Dave in the UK. He's a ham guy, and he's wondering about what antenna we use for SSB radio.
Okay.
That's a question for you.
That's a question for me. Okay, yeah, we have a ham, SSB as one does it. And we use a random wire antenna on the backstay. You insulate a bunch of your backstay. There's some special numbers. I think 32 feet is one of the magic numbers, but look it up. It's a function of the bandwidths that you would probably want to use. And you hook that to a good tuner. I like SGCs. As long as you have at least a 32, I think it is, a 30-foot backstay that's part of your antenna, you can get away with one of their cheaper tuners. They have tuners that are under $200, and that's what I'm using now. The big thing about it is the counterpoise. I'm not going to go deep into this because this can become religion, and nobody really cares that isn't a ham, but put it all in your counterpoise. Temptress came, because of her lightning suppression system, with a great counterpoise, and that We are relaying all the time. It's we have one of the stronger radios, even though we're only 100 watts. So counterpoise.
Cool.
Okay, there. Now I bored half of you to tears.
Hopefully that answers your question, Dave. I'm sorry. Feel free to ask more questions or clarification in the box. Thank you for Stephen and Dana and a whole bunch of other people for joining us too. Greg says, thanks, Emily, for the cruising women's video. It helped Terry and I have some good conversations. We're looking to start cruising next year. Awesome. So it was good information. That video isn't out publicly yet, but if you're on our Patreon page, we've already put it out. I sat down with 3 other women who are here in the Bay, who are cruisers, and who, like me, were not sailors before we met our partner. So we have one woman who's in her 20s, I'm in my 30s, we had one in her 40s and one in her 50s, and we all kind of talked about what it was like to move aboard the boat for the first time and what our captains did to sort of make us feel comfortable and what they did right, and advice we would have for women who were, or new crew members in general, who were coming aboard a boat for the first time. So that might come out this week or next week. We're not sure.
We don't know. It's our video in the bank, so we aren't stressed on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
When you see it, watch it. It is a good one. It's a good insight.
Yeah.
For everybody.
It's a little long. I think it's about 45 minutes. It's a little longer than our normal videos. And there's a part 2 that I have to edit as well, where we talk about a little more juicy things that we're just going to put on Patreon, I think. So if you're a Patreon, you'll see that in a week or 2. I think.
It might show up someday on the other one. We're not trying to coerce you into Patreon. You do that if you want to, not because we're trying to hold information away.
Mm-hmm. So Stephen asks, how long have you been in the DR? What do you hear about the government's dealing with cruisers now?
Well, we've been in the DR for close to a year.
Almost a year. August 4th we got here.
Mm-hmm. The DR is not the United States, and the laws are different. And there isn't the freedom of speech laws we have in the United States, and we actually can't comment on that safely. It's just not the right thing to do.
All right. We've had a decent experience here.
Well, yeah, we've liked it here.
Yeah. So I guess that's all we have to say. Have we ever done any sailing? Captain says, have we ever done any sailing around Nicaragua? You have. San Juan del Sur area. Is it okay and safe?
I understand that, well, Nicaragua was dodgy when I was there, and no, I gave it as wide of a berth as I could, even though at the time I was coming up from Providencia and up over the horn, as it were, of Nicaragua and Honduras to the Bay Islands. I understand it's worse now. I'm going to have to look into it pretty good before we leave here, because that is where we're going. We're going to leave here, probably do Jamaica, then go down to Providencia, and then get down to Panama. Looking forward to Panama. I probably will stay as east as I can, coming down from Jamaica, and then drop off downwind to come into Providencia. That's good anyway, because in case something happens, you can always bear off. And it's good because we'll be the furthest out boat, and maybe we won't be a target. It's not like they're taking somebody every week, but it is one of the dodgier places in the world right now, I think. Again, it's been a year since I've looked into it, and I will be more an expert come, say, November.
So let's talk a little bit about that. When you say you look into it, what does that mean? What are the places online you can go to check out safety of places?
I might be wrong here because I just look it up every time, but I think it's called Noonsite. But if I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, I apologize to whoever runs this site. There was this guy that started this safety and security website for the Caribbean. He was starting it up just when I was down in Grenada last time, so I was out actively sailing during the time, and he endeavors to catch every single law type event, every theft, everything, and track it and graph it and show it over time per area. It's a very, very good thing to look at, and he, like, if I remember right, he even has like colors, like red is hearsay, or one color is hearsay, and it goes through a spectrum to this really happened, and here's the police report. So it's a good source to go by. Rumor never really, rumor, you got to go by rumor too, but this is better. Mm-hmm. So we have like an investigative reporter kind of out there on our behalf.
Yeah, it's good to be cautious when you're traveling because, like you said, it's not the United States, and even in the United States, it's good to do research about.
Yeah, there's
where
places
to
you don't
go.
go in the United States.
Yeah, you do have to do your research. A lot of people just get on a boat and go, and
Yeah.
it's important to know what's up.
Barring the hot spots, I still say piracy is crime on the water, and I am a little more worried in the Miami area than I am in the Bahamas, for example. I relax a bit more when I leave the big city.
Anthony West just bought a boat. Congratulations on your boat. That's exciting. He said it's a Cal 2-27 SD Plan B. Cool. Maybe we'll see you out here sometime. A couple of people asking about or commenting on the battery system and the charging system, and maybe give a quick update about that and the AC and how those things are going.
Well, battery deserves a big video. I do wire temperatures inherently different than anybody else tends to. And I like it, and I've been doing it for 25 years and 20 of it cruising, so it seems to have held up. But let's see, in short, we do a weird thing with lithium. You've probably seen it in the videos where I'm mixing lithium with lead. I have, after I put out the video about it, some questions came in, and I realized that, it isn't perfect when it comes to charging the lead or charging the lithium. You have to kind of do one way or the other. And I thought, well, hell, I can design a circuit to do this. So I've built something that Emily, my marketing genius, says is called a bank manager. And we have the hardware right now, the final, well, shippable anyway. I can always improve probably, but a working.
It's not pretty, but it works.
Yeah, it's in a pretty box and everything. I'm pretty happy with the look of it. I sent it away to a board house and had it sent, and I screwed up a couple parts. And then the second spin, the hardware is all working, and I've got software that works pretty well. It's not done yet. And then I started dealing with the whole air conditioning thing and trying to find someone to manufacture it. So I've kind of put that aside. The good news is the air conditioning stuff, we've got a company that is going to be producing these. And in fact, right after this, I have a meeting with him at 3:30 to tell him all the secrets. And because we've signed our contracts, and given the secrets, he will start ordering compressors and condensers and all the parts necessary to right away make kits available, delivery time and all that.
The DIY version.
Yeah, the DIY version, which it isn't that hard. And when I get my own DIY version here, probably Steve, but somebody in this bay is going to get an air conditioner installed by Clark, and Emily will be over my shoulder with a camera. So there'll be a video on how to do it step by step. So there's like 4 solder joints in the whole thing. It's not very terribly hard, but you could also hire someone, to do it for you. Then there will be one that you put in as a pre-built sled and the air handler somewhere else, like a mini split, and then you just wrench them together and vacuum it down and charge it, which you could very cheaply hire someone to do. And then finally there's going to be another version that is just totally, here it is, plug it in and it goes. And I think that version's going to be inherently different. It's going to have the same compressor, but it's not going to have the mini split approach. It's going to have, everything's going to be on the sled, and there's just going to be duct work, and you just have to put the 4-inch duct to some place. So it's going to have a very powerful blower, and that blower, of course, will use more power. So it won't be as efficient, but on the other hand, it'll be, here's a box, put it in your boat, wire it up. Which is, some people, that's the right answer. So those are the 3 choices that will be. Oh, and we've gotten a tremendous amount of interest from non-boats, people with RVs, and thinking about that, it's like, that's great. And trucks, over the road truckers used to be able to run your diesel all the time, and now there's no idle rules everywhere, and you can't do it. And it's a lot of fuel anyway. So they run like little Honda generators to do the air conditioning and heating because they live in this place while they're doing their mandatory sleep. Well, if they put one of my systems in and maybe put a little more battery in the truck, but maybe not because trucks have huge batteries, the truck's alternator would charge it all up when you're traveling, and then you get somewhere and you could heat and cool with it. So we're going to do some air-based systems that don't need salt water. as well. But those are down the line a little bit, I'm afraid.
I think what you were talking about was getting kind of like the first kits out by the end of the year, sort of to get.
Oh, I'm hoping they're much before the end of the
hopefully,
year.
yeah, like this fall.
Yeah.
So obviously that means you'll be hot this summer, but hopefully before next summer.
I might be wrong, but
easy.
it depends how long the lead time is on the compressor. But almost everything else could really be had by him within, say, 2 weeks.
Okay, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Lots of shipping and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's business is
side.
business. That's why I don't want to do it. I like inventing stuff.
Okay, we got some more questions rolling in.
What's that yellow bit?
Jeff gave us $10. Thank you, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much.
That was very nice. That's generous of you. I think we still haven't figured out where the ones from last time. I think they go into our AdSense account, but we appreciate that very much. Thank you. So I'm going to give you a question to think about while I answer another question.
All right.
Ed says, beyond ventilation, what are some must-haves for sailing? And I guess he means like living aboard. Some person named Old Guy, I guess. Oh no, we answered that one. Dave wants to know about seasickness. Do I get seasick? Because you'd never get seasick.
Not anymore.
And does it get better with time, and how to deal with it? So that's a good question. I do get seasick usually in the very first day that we go on a long crossing. So like right now, where we're at right now on a mooring, there's not a whole lot of rocking and rolling unless the wind is really extreme or we're getting a storm or something like that. So there's kind of a gentle rock throughout the day, and it's really easy to get used to. When you go out sailing, obviously, there's a lot more tumultuousness. So what we've figured out, and what Clark has recommended, is before we go out on a crossing, is we take the boat out into a wavy area that's still somewhat secure that we can anchor in, so that for a day or more, we just get used to that motion.
When we have no responsibilities.
Right, because when I get seasick, a lot of people throw up when they're seasick. I have sort of the opposite problem. I have to go to the bathroom all of a sudden, which is worse because I have to come down here and I have to go in the bathroom where there's no windows or anything. You just kind of have to hold on.
And then you throw up.
Yeah, and then yeah. So I have to hold on kind of with all four limbs, and just, it's not fun. It's not fun. So getting an entire day where we have no responsibilities, where the anchor is set, where we just get used to the motion of the ocean, as it were, is very helpful. And then we have a medicine that a lot of sailors know about. I don't know if it's available in the States, but it's called Sturgeon. Maybe we'll try to put a link if we can find one, or at least spell it out in the description.
Okay. We do have a whole video on this.
We do have a video on seasickness, that's right. So you can go watch that video.
Yeah,
but
it's one of our Q&A videos, and it goes into depth.
yeah, but so Sturgeon, there's a little pill, and I have found that if I take a whole one, it does make me kind of drowsy. It makes you a little disassociative. So I just sort of like take a nibble of one before we set out, and then if I get feeling seasick, you can take a nibble afterward, because it'll actually take you back from being seasick, whereas other ones you have to take before you go out.
Right. And the sleepiness, she's a very major lightweight when it comes to anything drug-like.
Yeah.
So I can't even tell when I take it. I just function fine. I haven't taken one in years, but when I've taken one, maybe I have all the other stresses and I don't notice it because, I don't have the luxury of going down below and
yeah. No, it's true. And one of the things when I do take Sturgeon, I try to drink some coffee or take something else that keeps me awake, because it does that. And also if we're motoring, the sound of the engine, I'm one of those people, like in an airplane, I'll fall asleep just because of the noise.
So we should make it not too long of an answer.
Yeah.
We do have the video.
Anyway, yes, I do get seasick. Those are kind of the ways we figured out with dealing with it. And after we're out for a day or two, or even if we're out for the first day, I throw up once and then I'm good. So it's not too bad. You deal with it.
Most people get over seasickness. Well, like 3 days is like a magic number if you're making an ocean crossing, and then it's just not even a thing. Some people are exceptions. My first wife was an exception. She was a real trooper, but she never felt good. She sailed to Hawaii and felt bad the whole way and went back out again. So if you're one of them people, just stop sailing. And Lord Nelson from the British Admiralty was one of those people. He was just tough.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is when you're down below, keeping your eyes closed so that you're not looking at something that's staying still but feeling the movement of the ocean. I think that's good too. And I always imagine that I have this visualization when we're sailing and it's rough that am just riding on the back of a dolphin. I don't know why it works for me, but it makes the movement make sense to me. Because if I said I'm sailing or I'm driving, it doesn't really work. But that sort of like a little bit frantic movement, I don't know. It just the dolphin imagery works for me. Anyway,
so one of the vital things to take with you is Sturgeon.
Sturgeon, absolutely. So Ed asks, besides ventilation, what are some must-haves for sailing and I assume live aboard life?
Yeah.
It's a very generic question.
Well, the sailing life, I'm going to answer it in.
Yes, in the Caribbean. Sorry.
Okay.
Qualification. He's from Canada, so.
Well, it's good to have a system of food storage in the Caribbean. There are countries that are dirt cheap to buy food in, like this one. There's countries where it's really crazy expensive. Yeah. So if you have a way to have a couple months worth of food on board, you can save yourself. Like our average grocery store here is what, like $20, $30?
Oh, when we go to the grocery store, what is 2,000 pesos?
Yeah, so it's like less than $20.
Yeah.
The Bahamas, it was like always over $100 for a similar amount of groceries. Minimum. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Ventilation is a big deal, especially when you go south of the Bahamas. Air conditioning is great, but unless you're going to run it all the time and then you're in jail, and like I said in the video, don't do that. You really need good fans. They are, like, you might die without them. I mean, it's so hot in Panama and so humid.
We've got 2 of them on us right now.
It's not like when you're up in, grew up in northern New York and we had hot days and the fan was, that's cooling. Well, if you're lying there in stagnant air, the air around you is getting 100% humidity from your sweat. And if you don't blow that away, your sweat can't evaporate and you will just overheat. And there are places where the average daily temperature is above human body temperature, like every day. So you just have a fever all the time. Mm-hmm. It's you need fans. Mm-hmm. Okay, enough of that. What else? It's hard to answer a question like that because I have, over the last 30 years, figured all these things out, brought them into my life, and now they're just part of life. So when we do a video on that, it's like a real head scratcher. What do we do that's different than when we're in our house?
I would say not so much here in Luperon, but in the Bahamas, I really like that we have fins and snorkels.
Yep.
Because jumping in the water is one of the best ways to cool off. So
let me tell the story
about
having a hat.
Oh,
hats.
Water.
Yeah. You don't ever see me outside without my hat in any video or anything. I think I should tell the story about the spouse thing where you can make the other person jump in the ocean.
Sure.
Okay. When I was first out sailing 20 years ago, I was in the Sea of Cortez, and I was quite young. And this older couple gave us some wisdom that I give to everybody. I think it's kind of great. Because, here you are, there's all this beautiful water all around you. And they said, if your spouse ever says jump in the ocean, you have to. But you both have to. It's because you get kind of nasty to each other when it's hot sometimes. And whatever you do is, I don't need to jump in the water, I'm just fine. Nope, jump in the water. So you jump in the ocean, and within a couple minutes, like, this was such a good idea.
Yeah, you get cranky when you're hot.
Yeah. But here we can't jump in the ocean, so, we technically can, but we don't want to.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Robert on Arabella wants to know what you think of the new double-faced solar panels. Are those a good idea?
If there is a place where they're a good idea, it would be on a boat.
Because of water.
Yeah, because, you're getting the most possible reflection underneath, and usually the panels are mounted up with air underneath them and everything. And honestly, if I had a set, I would give them a go, if they would fit on my rack. But I just bought panels, so I won't.
And we have way too many solar panels.
Yeah, we have plenty.
Of
but I really want to know the answer to that question.
We could air condition the whole boat.
Yeah. I looked at, I guess Will Proust did a analysis of them, but he didn't let any sun get to the bottom side, and he did them in a way that they didn't have much airflow either. He usually does really good analysis of things, but I don't feel he did them. Yeah, but I don't feel he did them justice. I would like them to be a good idea because on a house they're kind of dumb, but on a boat they could be really great. They're not going to double your performance, but 10% more counts. I don't think they cost double, but they cost a bit more.
Okay.
And the thing is, it might just become like the cool thing. and then everybody else, the price for them will probably come down. It might be the only panels you could buy in a couple of years, which, if they're not worse, wouldn't be a problem. I believe that the actual crystals are getting cheaper because the knives are getting better and they can cut thinner slices.
More efficient.
So where you could get like 100 chips per ingot 20 years ago, I'm just making these numbers up, maybe you can get 200 now. So the actual cost of the silicon is less, and maybe that makes it cost effective.
Just piggybacking on the Caribbean, what to bring, Salty Fry mentions wind scoops. Very good idea. We actually have a pile of stuff we need to do for sewing projects, and the wind scoop is on there as one of them, but it makes a big difference. For those who don't know, a wind scoop is like we have a hatch in the front that opens, if this is the way the wind comes, it opens this way, and we have a fabric, basically a big triangle that runs up and it scoops. It's like a big funnel, and it pours more air into the boat. There are also special ones you can put like on side ports. We have some friends that have some of those.
The ones you see the most, you buy at West Marine, the nylon ones that go straight up from the hatches. I have never had any good luck with those at all. Maybe somebody else is having good luck with them, and they can't do the other big trick. Our scoop does not go very high. It attaches, in our case, the inner forestay, but it could attach to your forestay, and it goes up at about 30 degrees forward, and it goes forward of the hatch significantly. It's just something I developed when I was down in Panama. And not only does it scoop the air and run it through the boat, so we could actually have more velocity here than outside on a calmish day, but when it's pouring rain, you have to close down. But when it's sprinkling, it's like a big brim on the hat, and it keeps the water falls out of the air before it comes in the hatch. And I tell you, it's the rainy days that are the hottest and the most miserable, because you have 100% humidity. It's still going to be hot, and you have to shut the boat down.
Yeah, it's pretty miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
And I'm talking about Panama. It will get worse.
Yeah, when the rain's, like Forrest Gump says, sometimes the rain comes from above, sometimes it comes from the side, sometimes comes from the bottom. When it's coming from straight down, it's nice to be able to keep the boat open. Right now, my dinghy is overturned on one of our hatches, so the air comes up, but it keeps the rain off, which is kind of nice. Although I do need to get my dinghy back in the water soon.
Yeah.
Okay, bunch of questions. Next question, let's go in order. Terry asks, have you ever used flopper stoppers, and are they good?
I like Magma's rocker stoppers, I guess they are. The ones that, see, how does they go? They come up like this, and they go down like this. Temptress is fairly narrow and deep. She's an older style boat. Gives her a lot of performance advantages in the ocean, but she rolls. Oh, this boat rolls. So I had one, I put it out on a spinnaker pole, and it makes all the difference, but it gave me this weird motion where I would go this way quickly and this way kind of under slow, and then this way quickly. Before we left, we were in a chandlery, and I saw this rocker stopper, and I just touched it. I go, oh, that's like brand new. Nobody's ever used this one. And I found out how much it was, and he told me, and I went back over and looked, and, it was a good price, actually. It was 2 of them. So I bought them, and we just sold the old one to somebody that was on the dock that wanted one anyway, and now we have 2. So we'll have 2 poles out with 2 rocker stoppers when we get to where it matters.
Do you want to explain what a rocker stopper is?
Or flopper stopper, rocker stopper, sure. I'm sorry to all of you, everybody else. Okay, it's a couple. This particular one, they're made in different ways. This particular one is 2 pieces of stainless steel with a hinge. And it's mounted out over the water, kind of far from the boat, like 2 arms like this. I don't know if I'm in camera. And when the boat goes down, it folds up and dives. And when the boat tries to come up, it opens and tries to lift as much of the ocean as possible. And that really takes the rolling energy out of the boat. So, yes, I like them.
That's what they do.
I can't answer questions short. I'm sorry.
Jimbo wants to know, is there going to be a video of me sailing my nesting dinghy?
Emily, is there going to be a video? Is there going to be a finish to the videos of you making your dinghy?
I did finish building the boat, for those of you who have been following that series. It took me longer to make the series of videos than I think it took me to build the boat, but I do need to finish it up. I think I'm just going to cram the rest of it, because
you should.
90% of the rest of it is just sanding. But we've gotten a lot better at making videos since then. When I was building the boat, I had like 3 cameras up all the time, and I would work for like 4 or 5 hours, and then I'd have to put that into the computer and then go through it and edit it. It took a long time. So I will tell you what. I will make it a goal by the end of August to put out the last
construction
episode of the construction video, and we will get some footage of me sailing it.
Okay. Yeah, it came out really nice, and it's a pleasure to sail.
Super fun.
I told Emily when we launched it, such that she was actually using it in an open area away from me, it's like, you've got to flip this dinghy and show me you can flip it back and bail it out, or you can't go out of sight of me. And then I took the dinghy out for a little ride, and it was blowing like 20. I couldn't make it flip. It is the stablest, nicest little dinghy. It's not like a super performance boat, but it just moves along so gently and easily. She sails standing up looking at dolphins and things, and they come to her.
Yeah, it's a fun little boat. I would do it again. I don't know if I would do it again, actually, if I knew how much work it actually was. But I'm glad that I did it, and it was a good learning experience, especially with you helping me.
Well, people would I'd like you to finish, and California
Chesapeake
Left Craft would really like you to finish.
Okay, so end of August. Write it down. I've got 30 days. I will finish that series. Thanks,
we didn't sign a contract or anything. This is just, we got 3 plans. And then they were really nice after the fact.
They were really good to us.
They would probably like to include her videos of making it in a... But right now it looks like she did 90%
looks like I didn't finish it. Yeah, so I need to finish it. Dave asked, I think this is Dave in the UK again, who is the navigator
Garmin
aboard, and do we have a radar? A couple of people have asked us about radars recently. Navigation, I've done a little bit of navigation. You're still the master navigator, but he gives me assignments sometimes.
Give her problems to solve. When I planned on going sailing, and when I owned my very first little 25-foot boat and thought of this as like the greatest life that would ever be, I fully expected to do this with Sextant, and the world has changed so much. When I took off in 99, I had a computer-based chart plotter, and it was wonderful. Still have it, the software for it, of course. But now I just use a little Garmin whatever, touch sensitive. I'm becoming the follow the purple line guy like everybody else nowadays. But life is easier navigation. It's just not a big issue. More important to know how to anchor, because the navigation almost happens for itself. In fact, my little Garmin, supposedly, don't trust it, but it tells me, go from here to here. Okay, and the Garmin finds deep enough water to get us there. That's just ridiculously
We always
crazy.
Go back and double check to make sure they didn't run us over a rock or something like that. But, that's part of navigation, and part of navigation also, we'll get up one day and our plan is to go north because the wind is coming from the east, and then if we find the wind has shifted northeast, well, then we either need to wait a day or adjust our path and something like that. So especially last year when we were going through the Abacos, you kind of assigned me, look at the weather forecast and plan out the next few days, because we were trying to make good time to get out of the Bahamas. So I've gotten fairly good at that.
I'd like to give her the other kind of navigation, which is, here's the cruising guide. You've picked the fun places you want to go to.
Right.
And then we'll work around those. And that's as important. Well, when you're island hopping, that's more important. And then when you're passage making, the other becomes more important.
So cruising guides are probably a good thing to add to the list of if you're going through the Caribbean.
Yeah.
I've liked having the regular paper cruising guides from Pavlidis or whatever however you say his name.
As you get further south, the cruising guides get better and less commercial.
Yeah, some of them are like, here, go eat a hamburger at this place, because obviously they gave me a free meal, so I could include it in the book. But it has a lot of like snorkeling locations, especially where there's little like airplane wreck over here, or there's a sunken sculpture over here, and they aren't the only places, but sometimes you can find the place that everybody goes because it's in the guidebook, and then you can dinghy around and find other cool places.
Okay, radar,
right.
I have radar. I was in Seattle when I outfit Temptress. So I'm talking to the local fishermen about radar because, they know. And when I say the local fishermen, these are, among other things, these are the deadliest catch guys. Those actual guys on the off season, their boats are in Seattle. So I'm talking to these guys and it's like, dude, you're the expert. What do I need? Well, it was just when those itty bitty little sailboat radars came out, and they all kind of agreed those are jokes. You needed, in their opinion, 2-foot radome, and like 4 kilowatts. I think that's what they said. I have 4 kilowatts anyway. I did that, and it fit just fine, and I've been quite happy with the device. But Once I left Seattle, I'd probably seen fog 10 times. I do use it when I sail alone, for example, for night passages and stuff, because it's another set of eyes that's telling me if there's a radar target. And once you get out far enough, anything that's out there is big enough that it's a radar target. It's not like a little panga's out there 100 miles. And when you're in close, you're watching because you just got up.
I think we found radar useful one time when we were crossing from Key West, and it was an area where there were especially good fishing, I guess. In fact, we had a fish jump aboard our boat while we were making the
Yeah, it was
crossing.
a king mackerel.
King mackerel jumped aboard the boat at like 3 a.m., which was the weirdest thing. I thought it was like a water bottle or something going off board because, it was like, we just heard this flopping, and then I got the flashlight, it was a fish, and before I could think to grab it, it jumped overboard. But we had these two big fishing boats that were like coming at us from either side, and it's a little hard to judge the distance, but we just flipped on the radar. Turns out they were like heading straight for each other, but we were perfectly fine.
We didn't have AIS at the time, so we used radar to figure them out. Nowadays, since they're commercial, they will have AIS, so that kind of takes some of the load off radar. But here's the number one reason to buy radar. Not to buy it, wouldn't be worth buying it, but this is where we actually use our radar the most. We'll come into a crowded anchorage, and I will turn on the radar and get this bird's eye view of the anchorage saying, that is the largest hole in this crowded anchorage. And with all confidence, I will go to that spot and anchor and just be done with it. Where other people will move into a place and look over and the grass is always greener. Oh, it's a bigger hole over there.
It's like the grocery store when people spend half an hour going around the grocery store looking for the perfect parking spot.
Yeah. It tells you the perfect parking spot. Yeah. Sounds silly, but...
And then you pop some popcorn and watch all the other people's marriages fall apart as they try to anchor.
We came probably it was the first real cruise that you took off with me. We came into Marco Island, and we had a little propeller transmission weirdness going on, so we were a 4-knot motoring boat. And it was getting dark, and all these boats are just motoring past us to the anchorage. And don't worry. We got there, anchored immediately with that tactic, and knew what we were doing, so we anchored immediately and sat down and just started listening to all the yelling and screaming and re-anchoring going on. It was kind of
knowing
fun.
Knowing how to anchor under pressure and having your hand signals or whatever, right, is a good marriage builder. Or at least preventative maintenance.
Yeah, we were going to do a video on it, but we got in a big fight.
That's not true. You're joking. So
somebody else gave us money.
I did. Thank you.
I'm not wearing my glasses.
Balomni. I'm sorry, I'm not pronouncing your name. He says, thanks again for your data. P.S. Clean shaving is cooler in the summer, more bearskin. How often do you run your water maker?
Oh, well, when we're here, never, because the ocean in this bay is so full of life that the pre-filters don't even make it through a whole cycle, and I have to just clean them all the time. In fact, I have just changed the pre-filters to very, very coarse ones for the air conditioner because I just couldn't keep up with cleaning them, and the air conditioner doesn't care very much. When we're living the life, though, I have two 70-gallon tanks. I usually find that we burn about 10 gallons a day when we don't care. And I use a tank, and when it's empty, I turn the water maker on it and switch and use the other tank. So I rotate my water. I always have a whole week's of water in reserve in the worst of cases. And you want to run your water maker at least every week or bacteria starts growing inside it, and then you have to do cleaning and pickling and things. You can run them virtually forever if you run them every week without cleaning. Because I've gone out for like 3 years and just kept running it. And they like that better. The cleaning is harder on them, as I understand. I mean the membrane, of course, when I say that.
Is that the same for people who have like the Rain Man, the portable water makers? Do those have to be run too?
Yeah, it's
Just
still
the same
once a
way?
week. It's the same bacteria in the same filters.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
just have two of we have the big filter anyway, but they have two of them. It's just a static system at that point.
Gotcha. Yep, but yeah, it's pretty much a weekly thing for us. David wants to go sailing, but he says his wife can't swim.
Well, learn to swim.
Learn to swim.
You're human. You float.
Learn to
It's not
swim.
so bad.
Or wear a life jacket all the time. I think there's a lot of people out here who aren't really big swimmers, actually.
If your wife can't swim, tell her to rest assured. And she's trying it in pools and freshwater.
Oh, it's so much easier.
It's so much easier in saltwater. It's heavier. And here's a little story. We were going through the Panama Canal, and we got a bunch of our friends to be line handlers, and that's great for them because not only do they get to see what it's like before they take their own boat through, and you have to have line handlers. So we actually got to stay in Lake Gatun for the night. Usually you can't do that. So we're in Lake Gatun, and the advisor guy said, don't go swimming. There caiman everywhere. So as soon as he left, we all jumped in the ocean. And it felt like we were being pulled down because we've been swimming in saltwater for years, and this is freshwater. And we had to, like, tread water twice as hard.
Yeah.
So just know that you can, A, swim much, much more easily in saltwater, and B, if you have fins on, anybody can swim.
Oh, yeah, it's much easier with friends.
Yeah. Get little short fins. They're easy to maneuver. And in fact, I use little short pool-like fins.
Yeah.
They're on our list, I think.
Yeah.
And I like them because you can maneuver around. When I'm scuba diving, I use bigger fins. But
and
when
they
I'm,
float. And
Yeah. Do they?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They float.
I
It
didn't
says
know
right
that.
on them, they float.
Oh, yeah, it does, doesn't it? Okay. Well, I never trust them. I've never let go of them.
Yeah. No, it is. I'm not like a super strong swimmer. If you asked me to swim a mile or something, I don't think that would work very well.
Well, but with fins on, at least
But
that
with,
1 year.
with fins, yeah, it's not too bad at all to swim, and in salt water, the combination isn't too bad. And you know, you can always wear a life jacket. But like I said, we know sailors out here who swimming is not really their thing. Other people swim every day, you know, multiple times a day.
No one has ever
But-
fallen off Temptress in the 30 years I've owned her.
Yeah.
Accidentally, you know, you hit the jump. Boats are pretty secure things.
Yeah, and you've got life jackets, and you've got the
Oh, suspenders.
you know, there's plenty of safety equipment, and
Yeah.
if you're, heaven forbid, your boat does go down, you've got a life raft and life jackets.
Yeah,
and
swimming's
things
not
like
going to
that.
help you if your boat goes down. You're going to need a
Yeah,
raft
yeah.
because there's swimming and then there's swimming, and
So,
nobody can swim.
I would say if your wife likes looking at sunsets and sailing and seeing new places, that should counteract learning to swim. But
Yeah.
if she has a fear of water, that's a different thing that takes a lot of time to get over.
You know, the fear of water goes away too when you get to these beautiful places. You never really had a fear of water, but Brigitte did, my ex-wife.
First time I went snorkeling, though, I had an asthma attack.
Yeah, you had an
It was
asthma attack. I had to rescue
There
you.
were big waves, and it was very unnatural for me to put on a pair of goggles and stick my head underwater and tell myself it's okay to breathe. Your head is underwater, but it's okay to breathe. And I just had a very hard time. Actually, I sort of hyperventilate a little bit, and you had to pull me out of the water.
If your only experience is jumping in some murky mill pond where you can't see anything, and you're not in salt water, so you're heavy and having to work hard, yeah, I kind of can see that. But you get in the ocean in a place that's clean and sharp, like the Bahamas,
It's like an
and you put
aquarium.
your head down, and there's this aquarium of brightly colored fish that are just inviting you to, and a dolphin might come by. The fear goes away real fast.
There, and a lot of people are, it's like, aren't there pirates out there? You're going to get hit by lightning, and there's sharks that are going to eat you. Those are like the top 3 things that people always say. And sharks really aren't, I mean, there are sharks out here, and you should know how to deal with sharks. But like swimming in the Bahamas, we might encounter a nurse shark every once in a while, but they sleep during the day. They don't bother you.
We did have a tiger in our bay.
We did have a tiger in our bay, but, you know, it never bothered us. It's, and we've literally poured blood in the ocean and not had
An
sharks.
entire pint of human
drain his
blood
blood
in the
sometimes.
ocean. Yes,
but-
we are worshiping Satan.
I guess the creepy thing when you're in the water in the Bahamas especially is barracudas. They're these long fish that, you know, have these snaggly teeth, and they're always right out of your peripheral vision, and they're stalking you, and they're just jerks.
They're creepy.
They're creepy. But
And-
if you turn around and you stalk them back, they run away. They look at you like, geez, why would you? You're so mean.
That's so rude. Yeah, figure out what they're doing to you. Do it the exact same
And then run
thing
away.
back to them, and they'll leave you alone. But otherwise, they will follow you all day.
Yeah. Anyway, swimming in the ocean, in the beautiful Bahama water, is much different than swimming in a lake or something like that. Because of the salt water, because of the clarity of water, lots of reasons. But I hope that won't prevent you from going sailing if you want to go sailing. Derek and Salty Fry both say thanks for our channel. They like that they get both of our perspectives on things. Gives them a more realistic look at what sailing with their wives might look like. They also say, unlike other channels, this one does not waive super money upgrades that most can't get. True that. True that. We like to not spend money. Let's see.
If you can do it in a clever way, or you can do it in an expensive way, I feel more proud to do the clever way. 'Cause basically, if you just spent money on it, it's just something
You can spend money on everything, but we don't usually get much pleasure out here from stuff we spent money on. In fact, that's probably a good video coming up. We spent a lot of money 2 Julys ago. Our Cruise Miss in July video, and we bought a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that stuff turned out to be really good, and some of it turned out to be like,
Yeah.
we're not really using it. So we've been meaning to do a follow-up video on those. But when we love something, we talk about it, I guess.
Yeah.
Is the way to say it. And it's usually not something that's expensive, and it's almost never something that somebody's paid us to endorse.
Just the
Sometimes
wheels.
conveniently they pay us to endorse things that we already like.
But yeah,
But that's the only
well,
time
I
we
would
do it.
only do things I already like, or they have
Right.
to just send me one and I'll try it out. But I just won't. Some people do. We do this cheaply, but we're not doing it exactly hand to mouth. We're okay because we just don't want to like.
Yeah, we're not out
Yeah.
here until we run out of money, and we're not out here
Yeah,
making YouTube
there's a
videos so
plan
we
that
can
takes us to
survive.
grave.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a little more, but we're okay. So
What-
we're certainly not going to burn our integrity to be slightly more okay. That's just not.
What's our favorite YouTube channel?
Right now I'm watching Diesel Creek a lot. I'm just really enjoying watching earth moving equipment.
Yeah.
I don't watch sailing videos because I live this.
Mm-hmm.
Before I left sailing, I always had a travel log of someone sailing. That was like the YouTube videos back when they were paper. And I would read the books one after another because I was trying to get my head around what the life is like. So that's one of the things why we do this channel. We're trying to help you get your mind around, if you're thinking about going, what it's like. Not just what it can be and isn't that a beautiful beach and everything's perfect, but everything. And anyway, I'm reading these books, and I took 2 of them with me and got on the boat and never read another cruising log as long
once you're
as I
doing it, you're
live.
doing it.
Yeah.
We do. Somebody mentioned SV Seeker earlier. We've watched SV Seeker for a while. We're both maker, inventor,
Yeah, I
creative
wanted to
people, so we
cast
like to
some
do
metal,
stuff.
and I found him because he cast his own propeller out of bronze, and it's like cool. So I've watched a lot of his videos.
And Acorn to Arabella is kind of a cool channel, watching them build a wooden boat from the ground up. We do like to watch people building things, I think.
Uh-huh. Do you watch those?
Yeah, I've watched them.
Okay.
I mean, when you're watching them, anyway.
I usually watch like physics channels though.
Right, yeah, he does watch a lot of physics channels. I can imagine in my head what they sound like. I don't remember. I hear him watching all the time.
I like Isaac Arthur a lot.
Isaac Althu.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make fun, but he has a speech impediment, and
He's got
that's
a
how he
great
says
voice.
it.
I
And
love
he's
his voice.
cool. And I've watched every video he has.
Craig and a couple other people have some follow-up questions about seasicknesses, or seasickness, period. Would you prefer a monohull or a catamaran, or a monohull is better for seasickness? And does seasickness go away, or is it something that you live with forever and ever?
Personally, I fall down on catamarans. Monohulls are big pendulums, and they move at a certain speed or certain rate, no matter what. And your brain gets to know them. And of course, my brain is, I've lived on a boat for a very long time, so I'm very used to it. In fact, I got off my boat in Key West once after being on the boat solid without meeting another person for a month crossing back from Puerto Rico. And I'm walking down a crappy sidewalk, and there was an irregularity, and 1 foot went up on it. And they took 3 more steps and fell down in the grass on smooth sidewalk. And I'm thinking, what the hell? And I realized the earth went up this way, and my body expected it to do this. But a catamaran floats on the waves. And when you're out moving on them, they're moving with the waves, and it's a function of kind of your course. And if the course changes a little bit, the frequency changes, and I fall down. I'll be there with people that aren't sailors, and they're like, oh, this is so great because it doesn't heel over, and I'm so uncomfortable. I probably could get used to them, but I like monohulls.
They're very different.
I like all that lead down there.
Gosh, lots of things. Rick L says, like our video, help us get the likes up so more people watch our videos.
Listen to that, man.
Agree. Let's see if I can find this because I just jotted it down.
Oh, and if we have any new people coming, welcome. We've gotten a whole bunch of subscribers lately. We got like 4,000 subscribers this month.
Yeah,
which is crazy for us. So if you're new to this and you're confused, well, this is a live stream, and this is only our second one. So we'll get better.
And thank you also, I don't know if I mentioned Jill and Fabian and Mike and Doug and John B. all joined Patreon this morning. We didn't have your name scrolling at the beginning, but thank you and shout out to you for joining our Patreon page. We appreciate that, and you're welcome to message us on Patreon anytime. Ross or Roz, I don't know if that's short for Rosalind or Ross. Any tips for first-timers planning a 3-day Biscay crossing in the next 3 months or so?
Go farther. The Keys are quite nice.
Where's Biscay?
Biscay Bay is
Biscay Bay is?
it's Miami.
Oh, okay.
It's where you sailed into when we delivered the 100,000-pound boat.
Okay, and that's crossing to like.
I assume that they're going to play within Biscayne Bay, which is nice because it's protected water. I don't know. My experience at Biscayne Bay is I brought a boat in from the Bahamas and I anchored it up by that Sea Stadium area.
Stadium,
and then we got on an Amtrak to go home. It was kind of a cool experience. I've never been on a train like that before.
I don't know, Roz, if you have any more context. Have you been sailing for a while? Have you done a shakedown cruise? Have you done all that sort of stuff? If you can give us any more information, maybe we can give you more constructive feedback. Popeye says surfing in freshwater Great Lakes is harder than the ocean. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, Gordon Lightfoot does not lie. I started my sailing career on Lake Ontario, and it can get real bad real fast. It's shallow water or whatever it is, but it can.
Treacherous.
Yeah.
Derek asks, older boat plus cash refit versus financing a newer boat for 3 to 4 years. Any opinion on the best way to afford this kind of life?
I think everybody's got to do what they've got to do. Personally, I don't finance boats. I want to own it, and I want to make my own decisions. I don't want an insurance company, which you brought into this little family as soon as you finance, deciding where I'm going to go and what paperwork I'm going to fill out. On the other hand, I bought Temptress old and rough, and I spent a lot of time building her up. The good thing about that is I built her up to a standard that is better than a new boat. Her systems are pretty rock solid, I guess.
And you do a lot of work on people who bought new boats and end up in the Bahamas and something on their new boat wasn't done right, or there's always going to be work to do on a boat, right? Even if it's brand new. You're not going to have a turnkey boat.
They also don't. Well, first off, it's not like cars. As the car ages, basically, you can see its depreciation. If it's a good solid hull, which that's another point I'll get to in a minute, like a hull from this era, Temptress as a hull will outlive like the human species unless she's caught up. She might need a new deck someday. She might need new systems every few years, but she is just so solidly built. They don't do this anymore because the petroleum costs too much, the chemistry costs too much, but she's so solidly built she doesn't flex, and if glass doesn't flex, it doesn't fail ever. A modern lightweight boat that's kind of designed to race around beer cans or hang out in a marina, overloaded for cruising, and then forced to do this kind of job, they start getting stress cracks. So that's a thing too. When you buy that older boat, you might be buying a better boat.
Well, talk about, because you've told me about the age of boats, and there's certain periods in which boats were made that you don't want to buy those boats.
Well, I often say the blister was invented in 1971. And the joke is, because OPEC made the cost go up so much, they seem to have changed something. And then a little later, they added boron as a flame retardant, and that made a big problem with blisters. But I have personally never seen a boat built before 1971 that had any blisters at all. Temptress has none.
No blisters.
So that's good, but you can deal with blisters on an old boat. Like Valiants were known to be blistery boats, but by now every Valiant has had an epoxy bottom done or thrown away or something. And they're grand boats, heavy. Bob Perry designs good stuff, in my opinion. They're not necessarily the fastest thing in the world, but they are beautiful to live in. Just really nice.
In terms of, so this is kind of a boat buying question, but it might also be a finance question. So it also depends, like, if you buy an old boat and you're going to have to put a lot of time into it, that you're going to have to take time off work or spend the first 3 years of your retirement. It's always going to take longer than you think it is to build up your boat. So if you're taking time off work to build up your boat versus the money you could be making it work to pay off a boat in a few years, that's something you have to decide too.
It may be cheaper to buy a more expensive boat, yes.
Yeah.
But if you can find joy in fixing it up,
Yes.
at the end of it, you are also going to be the absolute expert on how that boat is set up,
Right.
which is really handy when something goes bad in the middle of waves, in the middle trying to get into a harbor, and you say, well, I ran that wire. I know where it, I know how to, as long as I get 12 volt positive here, the engine's going to start. So I'm just
Yeah.
going to do that with another wire. I have had times where in an emergency, it's like, well, we don't need that right now.
And the type of work is important too. I mean, it's kind of like a house too. When you buy a house usually needs a little bit of work on it. Does it have good bones? Is it solid? And are you gonna, be tearing out walls and doing drywall and all this stuff, or does it just need some new paint and stuff like that? And learning to do bright work, varnish, things like that, superficial things. If you have a wife who's like me, who wants to sort of have that nesting thing where they go aboard the boat and reupholster things, mostly cosmetic things, that's an easy, somewhat rewarding thing to do versus does it have systems that work, does the engine work,
That
those
is
sorts
a
of things.
problem with older boats. They're going to have teak. They're going to have all of this bright work. You can if you don't want to do
paint it,
bright
don't
work,
paint
no, varnish it all perfectly, then scuff up the varnish and paint it. That way it's very easy to scrape the varnish and paint off and go back to varnish. But if you were to just paint it, you would never get the paint out of all the wood
Yes.
grain and everything.
Don't paint varnish.
But
Don't paint
a guy once said, the older a man gets, the whiter his boat gets.
Yes.
We haven't done that. I have let it go gray in the past.
There's a couple walls that have turned white.
Yeah, okay,
But
interior.
interior. Yeah.
But a modern boat, you don't have to worry about that because teak's too expensive. You just get a little piece.
Anyway, yeah, so you have to weigh out what is the cost in terms of time and in money, and what do you want to spend your time doing. I know that if we had to do a whole bunch of boat work in Florida in the heat, it wouldn't be very pleasing. But we are always doing something on the boat, and we can do work while we're out cruising. It's actually kind of a fun thing to do at bite sizes at a time, as long as we have enough to make our water and make our crossings.
Okay.
And
Last thing on this topic is the weight of the boat. I went into this last week, a month, so I won't do it. But if your boat is heavier, you can carry more. And one of the things you can carry is all of the paint and varnish and brushes you will ever need later. So that lets you do projects more if you have all the parts.
Dave says, do you catch and cook fish on your barbecue? So fun fact about us, kind of ironic, we don't like fish very much. I sometimes will buy like some salmon from the grocery store or something like that, but we don't.
Well, you bought it and let it go bad in the fridge.
No, it's still good.
It's still good. Oh, that was
It's
something
still
else.
good. I put it in the fridge one day and put it back in the freezer.
Okay.
But we don't really go fishing that much.
I don't eat
we don't
fish. I don't care for it. When I was a kid, I kind of figured out how bioaccumulating toxins work. I was like in fourth grade reading a book that a fourth grader probably shouldn't be reading. And I applied it a little bit heavily to my life, and I stopped eating fish. And now it kind of tastes like it smells to me, and I don't care for it. So I live this life where I could just go down and get free protein, but I prefer chicken.
I do like conch, okay, but I don't know. It's a lot of work to do it, and we like canned chicken. But there is a lot of fish to be had depending on where you go, and we know a lot of people that do chicken of the sea.
Yeah.
Fish, and if you're in the Bahamas in the right season, there's lobster also. There's conch, if you like conch, and you can learn how to prepare that. We had a squid jump aboard a couple years ago. I fried that up into calamari, which was kind of fun. So it's possible, we just don't really do it. But we do use our grill for a lot of things.
Yeah, I know some people that were cruising when I was down in Central America that if there was bad fishing, they were hungry. They ate fish, rice, beans, and local vegetables. They paid like nothing for food. But that's all they ever ate.
That's what we have a friend,
fresh catch.
Adventure Man Dan, if you know him. We met him in the Bahamas last year. That's one of the things he tries to do, is basically just live off his catch. He does some pretty extreme long breath hold, deep water diving. You can check out his channel. I think it's just Adventure Man
I believe
Dan.
he has the record for the largest salmon ocean shot.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Some
he
big
goes
ass
for
fish.
some world records, but he has some pretty interesting videos, and that's sort of his philosophy and what he does to live frugally, is to catch all his own food. sorry. How is your mini air conditioner working over time now? It's working great.
Yeah, it's been it's well over a year of. It doesn't
Year and a
run.
half almost.
Yeah, we run it we ran it last night and it was only like 80 degrees out. Last night it was like air conditioner or not, and Emily said, "I think I saw a mosquito." So we shut down and turned it on.
And it rained too, so it's
it
easy to
rained, so it was
shut
good
down
to
the
run.
boat and
Yeah,
just do it. Yeah, it's working.
and
Really
I've
great.
added a new thermostat now that I'm going to recommend with the kit. I think. Though it's got a dodgy little short circuit because it's Chinese, but if I find out what it is and it looks like it was just a manufacturing thing, but it is a thermostat with temperature and with humidity. And this is extra important for this one in a small room because if it cools off in the night, it's cool enough that it shuts off. But there's two people in this little room and it starts getting really humid and you can get uncomfortable from that. So with the old thermostat, I would turn it on, lower the temperature. And with this one, since I put it in, I just sleep through the night and it's perfect every
it
night.
adjusts itself.
So it comes on for whatever reason and it figures it out. So that's a good thing. I like it.
David says, it seems Clark's extremely knowledgeable when it comes to repairs. I'm not. How much of an issue is it being mechanically impaired?
Cruising, voyaging is sailing your boat to strange and wonderful places and fixing it there. And it really is.
I like what, Salty Fry kind of responded. It's not about being impaired mechanically that's an issue. It's more about that you are willing to get your hands dirty and learn.
Yeah. That was my
One
point
thing at a
exactly,
time.
Fry. You will figure it out. There's going to be loads of guys around that will help you. There's going to be a few guys around that will help you in the wrong direction. But there are people that do know. It's kind of more important to have the tools and the parts than it is to have the knowledge. Because you can always go online nowadays, but you could also find someone that, there's certain things I'll help you out with and I'll be right in there. But I hate pulling wire. I just hate it. It's like the most unsatisfying job and it's always sweaty and miserable.
Agree.
So I say, yeah, run that wire from there to there. When you get that done, we'll talk some more. Bye. But at least I'm telling you more to run the wire.
Tools is a good. We have this list of 100 videos that we want to do. We're never really starving for video ideas, and one of them, people have asked us a lot about tools, and there are certain things like a voltmeter and other things that you always recommend people have on their boat, even if they don't know how to use them, because sometimes somebody else.
A
would know how
good
to
quality
use them.
multimeter you have to have. A friend in Seattle said, "Well, I don't know how to use it." I said, "You need to have it because you keep asking me every time I go over here to check something, and I don't want to walk back to my boat anymore. So you need a multimeter. You'll figure it out later."
Let's see. Clark, will you share your investing strategy? Are you an S&P 500 kind of guy, investment property? I assume you manage this yourself versus having an advisor because you DIY everything.
Yeah.
We do DIY.
Well, we actually have a whole series called the Enough is Enough series that's all about this. And I've already gone into really great detail. And in fact, on the 3-part sub-series that talks about how to open up a brokerage account, when you see us actually making a purchase and when you see us actually going through the selection process, those are the funds that the bulk of our money is in. Yes, I am a buy and hold.
Set it and forget it.
Yep, and a index fund. I don't want some genius taking 10% to make me 11%.
Well, there have been a lot of studies that show that
Yeah.
basically a lot of these low-cost ETF mutual funds outperform index funds
Yeah.
outperform people who are live
Yeah.
and editing them.
It stood to reason to me that they would, and I did that, and now it's 25 years later, and it is proven that I did the right thing, at least in the last 25 years. So I'm still going to recommend it, because
Yeah.
it seemed like a good idea then, and it seems like more of a good idea now.
Yeah.
Right now, the market's kind of high, though, but what else are you going to do with money? Because I'm really concerned about inflation, so I wouldn't want cash. I wish we were ready to buy real estate now, because now is a great time to have debt if it does go bad. I mean, if it doesn't, you still have some property that's worth it and everything. But man, if inflation happens 20%, your note just went down 20%. That's a sweet deal.
Yeah, but almost all of our money, aside from being in Tempterson, a very little house in Florida, is all in that index fund.
Yeah, that's what we live off of.
Although I did buy some Amazon when it was $900 a share.
Yeah, but I
Should've bought more.
stopped her and said only buy a couple shares for fun. And she's having fun with
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
but she
I
could
bought
have
a
made
few
a lot of
more
money.
I think my average is $1,200 a share on Amazon. But I mean, it's not a ton, just play money. Hi guys, do you have any recommendations for a charter area in the Caribbean other than the BVIs? Love your channel. I guess the BVIs. Oh yeah, BVIs. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're American or not. I was gonna say.
The British Virgin
British
Islands.
Virgin. No, I mean Jolie. I don't know if they're where they're from. If
It
that
doesn't
makes
matter.
A
You can go
difference
anywhere.
in terms of passports.
The problem with charter areas is you're a charter boat. There's charter boats around. I try to stay away from them myself. All the good anchorages are used up. The music is louder. So I'm not an expert on charter areas. One I kind of liked because it was down in, I guess it would be in the Grenadines? North of Grenada, south of St. Vincent. Those islands in there. There was an island I came in that it was a known charter kind of place, and I met some locals, and they were going off on their own charter boat. They had a big wooden boat they had built in an old style. It was kind of like a crude charter, but it was really kind of cool. But 100 people on it, big thing. And they were going out, and they said, we're going to be back in a week, and we're going to throw this big party. I want you to come. So I hung out, and oh man, I wish I'd figured this out before about charter places. So you charter a sailboat, and you get all this food, and at the end of the week, you didn't eat it all, but you wanted to make sure you had plenty. So what are you going to do with it? You can't take it home on the airplane. So there's a bunch of boats anchored there, and Temptress among them. And then back at Temptress is Temptress, Seattle, Washington. And I think Temptress is kind of a cool-looking boat anyway. Every 2 days on average, some guy would come by with a dinghy with a big box of food and always start with the same question. Did you sail her through the canal? And it's, yeah. And I would tell a story, and at the end of the story, I'd get all this great food. I could have I would have never had to go shopping again.
Just tell stories. Levi wants to know, have we met any professional writers in the sailing life? Actually, I was proofreading a book for somebody who's doing technical writing a while ago, and we know Paul Trammell. We met him on Windflower in Hatchet Bay. He's written a couple of books. He's out. I think he's in Panama now.
I've got a couple books in the collection that have been given to me by people who've written them, but I can't remember all of them right now by name.
I don't know that anyone's making 100% of their living writing books out here, but everybody's a little bit different.
Emily's a professional writer. She's writing rule books for
board
games. But she's like the hot board game editor now.
Yeah, right now. I started saying no to writing things. It's you should write a book. One of the things about
does anybody buy books anymore?
Kindle edition.
It's a lot of work, and then nobody would ever read it. We did a YouTube for that reason.
That's why YouTube is good. That's our book.
Yeah.
That's our contribution. Hi from Florida. Lots of people from Florida, actually. British Columbia, Jacksonville, Colorado. Ooh. What year, manufacturer, and model is Temptress?
Temptress is a 1967 Creekmore 45 designed by Ray Creekmore. He has a son, Lee Creekmore, that also has designed boats, but they're a bit different. She's a CCA boat, which is a racing rule that, well, at least in the case of this boat, I think ended up being a good cruising boat as well. She's different.
She's special.
Yeah, you walk around. The day I got on her, it's like, this is special. You walk around on deck, and you don't have to duck under anything. It kind of feels, the cockpit it's more like a little ship. It just has a different feel. And she's 5.5 foot full keel with a centerboard, and the centerboard goes down 10.5 feet.
And what's it made of?
And it's the board. Board is solid bronze.
That's pretty crazy.
It's 2,000 pounds supposedly of solid bronze.
And I know she has great lines.
We
Everybody always comes
by,
that boat has great lines.
I have had this happen to me a whole bunch of times. I'll be anchored somewhere, and somebody will come over and say, whose boat is that? Who designed that boat? And they were, like the last time it was Moody. He's a yacht designer, and he was spending the week on his boat with a guy that was a designer for Sparkman Stevens. They're all like, they love the boat. They look at it, and from their professional eyes, they go, "That's what a boat should look like." And then it bothers them because they can't. How is there a boat out there that good that I don't know of? But Ray Creekmore didn't make many, and he had his own yard, so the boats were made in his yard.
Paul. Evening from the UK. Evening, Paul. What is one luxury you would have if money was not an object, if any? If we had money.
I just kind of like this Spartan life. If we had a lot more money, I think I would still just live this way. Mm-hmm. I mean, technically, we could spend more money, but
I think if money and time was not an object, I would want to strip the deck off Temptress and redo it.
Yeah, if I could hire stuff down that kind of money, we got some leaks in the deck, and if it truly was money is not an object, I would go take a vacation somewhere and find some good workers in some boatyard somewhere that I actually trusted to just strip her from the gunnels up and rebuild the whole superstructure.
Seems like a lot of work, though.
It does.
But
it's a ridiculous, crazy amount of work.
All the plywood is very old, and you can see where it's sort of expanded and contracted a lot, and there's a lot of like hairline cracks in it, and like you said, just there's some leaks
mostly
in
the paint,
it.
but yeah.
Paint, and it's just we're never going to be done patching it up.
And the teak deck has been loved to death over the last 50 years, so I'm ripping. We just went green.
Oh, that's weird.
Oh, we're back.
Okay, we're back.
Okay. I've been ripping up. I've milled about 50 new teak boards, and I rip up one board at a time, and that's really thin and wearing through, and I'm replacing them one by one.
I suppose we could technically like rip up all the teak, re-fiberglass the entire deck, and then get a whole new
But that's
teak
dream
deck.
money.
But
it's not going to happen. Yeah.
it works. It's it's the boat life. We're
but
camping.
seriously, if someone said, "Here's whatever it would cost to buy a new boat," I probably would make this into a new boat. The hull's fine.
Yeah, we like our boat. We do. What do you think of DS configuration in the tropics? Are you familiar with serious Werft DSs, or now of anyone's experience with one in hot climates?
I have no idea what a DS is.
I don't know what DS is either. If you know, let us know.
Yeah. Don't abbreviate, because I don't know what you're talking about.
Compliments on your electric power setup. Speaking as someone familiar with ship electric operation. Lots of thanks for the live chat. Hello from Louisiana. Hi, Freddie. How's the Dragon Wing awning project going?
Yeah, that and the air conditioner, I really should have gotten off my ass and gotten done before summer. But, we can only do so much. I thought it was more important to get the air conditioning business going, because that's the thing. But that is a video we have to do. We've basically shot it because I shot it when I rebuilt this cloth and I welded up the struts and everything. You wouldn't have to weld the struts. I just did because I got a new TIG welder last time we were home. Yeah, we should do that. But the awning itself is great. It's come down once since we've been here. We get 25 knots of wind regularly here. It's fine. But during the hurricane, we took it down. And we didn't have to. We only probably had, it's good that we did. There were some gusts.
We like it.
Yeah.
We like it. DS is Deck Salon.
Deck Salon. I'm sorry, I still don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is. Any follow-up on carbon? We're getting an error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience ...
Okay, it must be our
buffering.
local data. Can you turn it
be.
down, the bit rate?
I have no idea.
Okay.
But we're going to finish up soon here anyway, and we'll bank the other questions for next month, I think.
Oh, it's after 3, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you think of the ideal monohull boat length is, ignoring cost, for maximum comfort with respect to crossings for a single-hander?
50 is a good number. You get over that, and it starts getting really hard to maneuver it in tight spaces. We sailed home. We helped deliver this 100,000-pound boat back to the U.S. The bigger they are, the easier it is. They react slow. You got all the time in the world. It might look like a massive sail, but as long as you know what you're doing, you can do it. So that's not a problem. Like I said last time, in the ocean, all boats are too small. In a marina, they're all too big.
But there's very few single-handers out here with boats over 50 or maybe 60 feet, I would say.
Oh, well, I single-handed Temptress.
I know, but over 50 or 60 feet.
Okay, 50 feet. By the time you get to 50 feet, if you're just 2 people, that's really all the room you need. It's just
or
waste.
one person hoping for a second person.
Well, Gil was alone on that 100,000-pound boat.
That was a big boat.
But that was, he had bedrooms and hallways and multiple bedrooms, but he only used one of them.
Yeah.
He really used very little of that boat.
Yeah, it was a cool boat.
Yeah.
It was a cool
Like
boat.
the whole forward of his cabin, that's like a third of the boat. Like, I don't think we even
but he
walked
also
up
had
there.
kids that would come stay with him occasionally and things like that. So.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah. Any brand of those little fans you would suggest? Somebody says, "Where can I get the mini air conditioning? I'm melting here." I know. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We have. If you go to, I think there's a link in the bottom of all of our videos to our Amazon storefront, and there's a section of the Amazon store called Live Aboard Life where we put our favorite fans, which are really great. They have 3 settings. They're super quiet. You can program them to run for 3, 6, 9, or 12 hours, I think.
Yeah.
We've got one on us right now, which is keeping us alive
Yeah, and you
right now.
probably can't hear it too badly. And this is a very sensitive microphone. They're quiet. I've had like every fan in the world, and these are like a whole notch better than the Hellas or, well, the older ones by this company. I highly recommend them. And like she said, for the air conditioning, fill out the survey on that video. And really soon, I hope, you'll be getting an email that will direct you to a yet-to-exist webpage that will have all the information and how to purchase it and what the options are and the prices and all kinds of good stuff.
And we'll send that out to patrons first. So if you're one of our patrons, we appreciate you. And we want to show
No, more than that, if you were a patron before I made the announcement,
Okay.
you're on a special list. So over 1,000 people have shown interest, and he's going to buy enough to do 250 kits, which is huge. I was only going to do 50. So there'll be a lot of people being served. But if you're on that earlier list of patrons, you will be offered one in the first round if you want.
Okay, here we go. Deck salon is where you step from the cockpit to the salon, and they're on the same level. You don't have to step down into the salon.
Oh,
So
like a catamaran.
Like Steve's. Yeah, like a catamaran.
Okay.
Like most catamarans.
I'd like to have the galley right there at a monohull, because that's where the airflow, especially the exhaust, is the most. So you want all that cooking heat and cooking smell and stuff to be able to get right out of the boat right away. And you want the cook or whoever's working in the galley to have, I'll say she, because Emily does the cooking here. If we're in the cockpit or if we're in the saloon, the way we're set up, she can still be part of the conversation either way. But if it's that type setup and we were in the cockpit and she had to go a cabin and a half away, she wouldn't be in the conversation at all. So I guess I don't care for them. I like deck galleys. I've never really heard this term
outdoor
before.
galleys. I don't like when if we go over to someone's boat and they have a catamaran and the galley is down below on one of the sides. It heats up the entire house, which is
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of preference.
Yeah.
For your boat.
There's 100 ways to set up boats, especially the catamarans. They're still working it out because they've only been around for, 15 or 20 years or whatever. I know there are multi-hulls that have been around a long time, but they only went kind of crazy in the last 20 years. It takes a while for it to work out. And then some of them are being sold to be in marinas, not really cruising, and some of them are sold to be charter, which is completely different. That's about how many beds can you get in it. And then some are sold to be cruising, and it's a bunch going on.
Yeah. Do we have a bow thruster?
No, we don't have a bow thruster. Always figured it would just slow me down too much and it wouldn't be worth it, and I don't hang out in marinas much. And we are a full keel attached rudder, relatively rudder's well forward. It is a horror to maneuver this boat in reverse. You basically have to figure out what the wind and current is going to do to you, and then just take advantage of that ahead of time, and then just hope it all works out. It's miserable. A bow thruster would be a nice thing. But no, I don't have one, and I don't think I ever will.
Do we bathe in the ocean very much?
No, we swim in the ocean, but after we swim in the ocean, we take a shower
Yeah,
in
or
the
at
fresh
least
water.
rinse off. I guess we've used soap in the ocean sometimes, but
Yeah. Well,
we just have a water maker, so we're
back
kinda
when I
spoiled
was
that way.
deluding myself, I was still young, and I would dye my hair. Because I started going gray at 25. I would always put the hair dye in and then jump in the ocean
Okay.
to clear off the hair
Oh,
dye.
so you wouldn't get it all over the head.
Yeah, because it would make a mess in there, right?
Yeah, that's true. If I am like sanding the house to do varnishing and stuff like that, I usually won't come and get our shower all dirty. I'll just jump in the water.
Yeah, it's not terribly satisfying to wash in the ocean. The soap doesn't. It's the hardest of hard water, and the soap doesn't lather nicely and stuff. So it's good to soap up and jump in the ocean, but
And it also, if you go to bed after having rinsed in salt water, you get all this salt in your sheets, and it's kind of like sleeping on sandpaper.
If you rinse after salt water, that's really great. Of course, you got rid of the salt. If you can't rinse after a salt exposure, get yourself right into the shade and dry off with a towel, and that will remove most all of the salt. But if you let yourself dry in the sun, it will dry on you, and you will be very uncomfortable. But you don't really need to rinse off if you could follow that rule.
I didn't know that.
Fun fact. We haven't been in a place where we haven't had all the water that we need.
Is that a knot in your hair? Yes, it's a knot in my hair. Part of the reasons I don't cut my hair is because if I ever need to put it back, I can just put an overhand knot. Although I do have a thing for it right now. Yeah, I do that quite often. What languages or tools do you program your Arduino in?
It's a C-type language. I just use the Arduino IDE like everybody else. I don't use the C++ extensions. If they're already, I haven't even checked. I just do it in the basic C stuff because of what it is. It's not a highly elaborate type circuit. But I did C++ mostly, and graphical user interface and GPU work before I last retired.
All right. Let's do like 4 or 5 more questions, I think. Are you using propane stove or induction? I like the idea of keeping the chef in the conversation. We use propane stove. I think we talked about it last time. I love our propane stove. I hate going home to the house and using the electric stove. It takes forever. I really like the propane stove. A lot of people are going induction now, though. We've noticed. And we have our microwave, which I don't know if you can see. It's up here. That we use sometimes when it's super hot and I don't want to heat up the galley. It's good
or
for
whenever
leftovers.
rice is involved in reheating.
Yes.
Reheating rice on the stovetop is miserable.
As we age, are V-berths difficult to get into? Why are so few boats built with with true queen-size beds? We have a V-berth, but we don't really use it for sleeping. We use it to store all of our crap right now. And we sleep in separate bunks, actually. There are some boats that have queen
I wish we did have a queen-size bed.
It is nice. I miss you.
I miss you. I mean, we visit.
Yeah.
But here's the reason why a V-berth sucks. It's not because it's hard to get in and out of. In fact, I would say it's easier to get into our V-berth than it is in my bunk, especially with all that stuff you've added there.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. Here's a boat. This is the bow. And you're anchoring, because you're anchored most of the time. And a wave comes and it lifts the bow up. And you would think the boat would even pivot through its center, but really it kills the wave. And you end up pivoting through almost the back. The pivot point of temptress on a wavy anchorage is right in the middle of my chest
right.
in my bed.
You want to be here on your boat,
so I'm doing this, not this. V-berths are very active. That's why the V-berth. That's where you put your kids.
You will see
or my parents when they visit.
Yeah. You see queen beds on boats a lot of the time, and so if you want a queen size bed in a boat, it's easy to find one.
The downside of a queen size berth is it's not a good pilot berth. You can't sleep in it in a
when you're rolling.
Where we can pull some boards and we are locked right into ours. But you can figure out, like this couch we're sitting on right here, this part of it folds down, and that's a berth up there, and this is a berth here, and both of them can have lee cloths. So if we had a queen bed back there at sea, we would just sleep here, and it would be fine. But we don't.
You don't. You just sleep right there. Have we considered starting a podcast? Have we listened to the O'Kelly's podcast?
We've been guests on a few podcasts.
Yeah, podcasting isn't quite our thing, I guess. We can only, we could write a book, we could do a YouTube channel, we could do a podcast, we could do a Facebook page, we could do all these things, but we find it easier just to focus on one thing.
Yeah, I don't watch podcasts, listen to podcasts, watch podcasts, tell you how much I use them. I don't particularly listen to podcasts, so therefore I don't think podcasts. It would be easier because I tried a few times to work from a script. I can't. I just have to be extemporaneous and just talk about shit. And that would be easier in a podcast probably than it is in a video. If nothing else, to edit it later and get rid of the ums without making me look like Max Headroom.
You're a sea nerd? I'm not sure what that means.
I assume
Does
he means it in a
program in
good
C?
way.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. See the language. Yeah, I
Maybe
thought you.
programming
I
language?
see. I can't read it, so I thought it
Okay.
was SEA. It's C.
Did I used to have a tiny house blog years ago? Yes, I did. It used to be Emily's Tiny Adventure, and then it was Emily and Clark's Tiny Adventure, and now it's just Emily and Clark's Adventure.
And it's this very channel. So if you look at how long our channel's been around and why it was not big for a long time, it's because its history wasn't.
I think
this.
so. I'm not sure if we started a new one, but my
Oh,
Facebook page.
maybe we
if you-
did.
If you go to the Emily and Clark's Adventure Facebook page and go back to about 2013 or 2014, you'll see my tiny house stuff. And I think we put the tiny house tours on the.
Yeah,
page too.
she was the famous one and back then. The tiny house community knew. We went to some tiny house meeting somewhere, and she said something about my name is Emily and whatever, and someone said, "That Emily?" Yeah, that Emily.
Yep.
She had a video that she gave to somebody else to put on YouTube. So, well, it's the same video as the video we have up of her first tiny house, the one she borrowed. It had how many views? It was millions, right?
Yeah, I think there's like 4 million or 5 million views
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah,
video.
more than our
So
whole
some
channel
people
has
recognize me from
now.
that. And yes, it was in Orlando. It was in an RV park in Orlando for about a year. I lived there, and then I built my own tiny house north
The
of
yellow
Orlando, the yellow one. I ended up selling that when we got back from our first cruise.
That one, by the way, was rented by Tiny House Hunters, the TV show.
It was on HGTV.
HGTV,
for an
yeah.
episode. Yep. Okay. So we're in the DR now. Somebody's asking, do we have plans to go beyond the Caribbean to cross over to Europe or Africa, or that would be the wrong way, really, or elsewhere aside from the Caribbean?
Well, I was going to go around the world, of course. Everybody's going to go around the world. And the woman I was with wasn't dealing with it well. So we curtailed the trip, hung out longer in Mexico, just turned it into a 3-year trip and kind of went through the canal backwards. I think I might be over that whole go around the world thing, though I was going to set a record. I was going to be the slowest man to ever sail around the world. Now, you could buy a fancy fast boat and take a shot at going fast, but to go slow, you had to retire young and you had to really be committed.
Yeah, I mean, the longest crossing I've ever been on is the one from Caicos here, which was, 20, 30 hours? Something like that.
Yeah.
So we have some longer crossings ahead of us if we go to Jamaica and Isla Vache and go down to Panama. So I think we'll know a lot more after that. But like you said, you've been doing this for a long time.
Well,
So
we'll get down to Panama, and I like Caribbean Panama, but I also really liked Pacific Panama. That might be enough reason just to go through the canal. Now we're on that side, and I know I liked Costa Rica on the Pacific side an awful lot. That's pretty easy to get to without fighting up current and stuff. And, hang out there for a while. And, Temptress already has her Panama Canal certification document, so we just have to pay the fee and go through. We don't have to get inspected. Then who knows? We might get
we'll either go north, south, east, or west from there. But we have talked about 5 to 10 years from now, we may not be sailing. We may have other plans, and that's probably a whole nother video in itself. Maybe we'll release that soon about what our plans are after that.
Half seriously, if we do decide the Big Island of Hawaii, it's one of the options for a place to kind of retire to. I would love to bring Temptress's systems there.
Sail to Hawaii and
Just
we
sail to
build a
Hawaii
house
again.
and then just unload all the stuff from the boat.
And then sell the hull in Hawaii.
Could be. All right. I know we've got more questions coming in. We'll save those for next month on our live stream. Thank you, everybody. I think we still have about 200 people on today, but I think we've had more than that coming and going. I hope that we got a couple error messages throughout, so hopefully the buffering wasn't too bad. I hope we answered a lot of your questions. Thank you to there were a few people who donated some money during the live stream, and that's great. Thank you, Jeff and Greg and Balomni. I want to say Baloney, but it's not. Balamni. Thank you to you, and thank you all for your questions. This is always fun. It's nice to have people talk back to you when you're making videos.
Yeah.
So I know one of his favorite things about doing YouTube is all the comments. So hope
Every
went
comment
well.
gets read. I guarantee it.
Yeah, we read every single comment. Every single one. We try to answer all of them that require answers, or at least give you guys a heart.
And just because I answer a comment doesn't mean nobody else can. Please pile in.
Yeah.
I get the feeling sometimes if I answer, then nobody else will answer. So,
Yeah, I love to see even in the chat here, somebody will ask a question and somebody else will chime in giving a recommendation. We're all about community, and we don't know the answers to everything. Clark knows a lot about a lot of things, and I know a lot about a few things. But we certainly don't know everything, and it's always great to connect and help everybody. I think most people who are on our channel are people who recently got boats or are looking to get into boats and get into the life, and they're just starting out and they're really hungry for advice, and they're really excited when they learn new things, and it's great to see that exchange going on all the time. Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right.
Oh, yeah. I got to make that call to the...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
air-
We've got a meeting in 1 minute, so we've got to talk about air conditioning, so we can bring you air conditioners. All right. Thank you, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon, and we'll see you next month on the live stream.
Bye.
Bye.